We're joined today by Gil McGowan outside of the legislature. Gil is president of the Alberta Federation of Labor. The Alberta government just invoked the notwithstanding clause to force striking teachers back to work. Gil, give us the overview. What happened today?
Well, as you said, our provincial government has chosen to invoke the notwithstanding clause, which is unprecedented in Canadian history in the context of a labor dispute. We had Doug Ford in Ontario a few years ago come very close to using the notwithstanding clause against education assistance in that province. In that case, the Ontario labor movement threatened a general strike and Doug Ford backed down. But here in Alberta, it looks like Danielle Smith is digging her heels in, and she's ramming through Bill 2, the so-called back to school legislation. And so it was introduced just about, it literally tabled just about 20 minutes ago. And they've already made it clear that they're going to try to ram it through in one day. So 1 hour of debate on first, second, and third reading each. And like as I was just telling reporters in a scrum outside the legislature on the other side of the building here, Daniel Smith and the UCP had options. If all they wanted to do was send teachers back to the classroom, they could have done it through mediation. They could have done it through arbitration, but instead they had chose to strip the teachers of their constitutional right to strike and impose an agreement. And the only way they could do that, based on Supreme Court rulings, is to use Section 33, the notwithstanding clause of the Constitution, to exempt themselves from the freedom of association. And so that's what they've done. They've stripped teachers of one of their basic democratic rights in order to ram an agreement down their throat. But I warned the premier, and as I said to reporters just a few minutes ago, by doing this, they've turned this from a confrontation between the government and the teachers into a confrontation between the governments and not just the labor movement here in Alberta, but indeed across the country.
Gil, what's on everybody's mind is what the labor movement is going to do. So what's up next in response?
Okay, well, the labor movement, as president of the Federation of Labor and the chair of what we call the Common Front, which is a coalition of unions representing about 400,000 workers in this province, we see this as the crossing of a really important red line. This is not just an attack on teachers, it's an attack on worker rights, it's an attack on worker bargaining power. And it's not something we can sit idly by, and we can't allow it to stand, because it would set a really negative precedent for bargaining, not just here in Alberta, but across the country. Because if they can do it here, they'll do it in other provinces. So we can't let them get away with it. And so we had an emergency meeting of all the unions in the province, which I chaired on Friday. And from that meeting, we sent a warning to the premier that if she took this unprecedented step, we would have no choice but to respond with an unprecedented action. We had another emergency meeting earlier today to discuss a possible action plan. But we were going to wait to see what the legislation looked like, to see if it was the worst case scenario. And as now we've just learned, it is in fact the worst case scenario. So we are going to gather again. So tomorrow morning, we'll have our final meeting before releasing a strategy. And so we'll have another emergency meeting of all the unions in the province. And I want to stress this is both public and private sector unions representing more than almost 400,000 workers. And so on Wednesday, we're going to leave tomorrow as a day for the teachers to respond. It's, they're the ones in the crosshairs, and they have some really tough decisions to make today, especially about the question of whether they actually go back or they defy. Their provincial board will make that decision in a special meeting tonight. Their decision will be communicated tomorrow. And, and then the following day, the broader labor movement will weigh in with our own response. But make no mistake, it will be a response that suits the times. And these are very challenging times and times that require a real strong response from the labor movement, which we intend to give.
Gil, you've said in an earlier interview with Energy Media that there would be a province-wide response. And
There will
so
be.
I think you were hinting around it's going to be serious. Are union leaders prepared to take the consequences? Because as we understand, we interviewed Jeff Foster, a professor at the Athabasca University. He laid out the potential consequences, fines of up to $1,000 a day for individual union leaders. Are union leaders prepared to go to the wall on this?
Well, I just told the teachers that, with this legislation, the government is putting a gun to their heads. So if they're not able to, to lead the fight right now, the rest of us will in their place. So if they have to go back to work because of the threatened fines and other legal consequences, that leaves it to us. And so, if they can't stand up for themselves, we will stand up for them. But once again, I'll stress, this is not just about the teachers now. It could have remained a dispute just between the teachers and the government, but by taking this unprecedented action, the government has chosen escalation and confrontation over compromise and negotiation. And the future of worker rights and worker bargaining power is on the line. We take that very seriously. And so, yes, are we going to have a province-wide response, and will the rest of the labor movement stand up? The short answer is yes, we will. Just watch us.
Gil, final question. What do you want to say to unionized and non-unionized workers in Alberta? And do you have anything that you want them to do between now and tomorrow?
Well, yeah, in terms of the message, I just, I want to communicate to working people in this province and across the country uh, the fact that this is much bigger than the teachers now. So obviously people are very supportive of the teachers and the reasons that they chose to go on strike. They were fighting for wages that keep with inflation, which every worker in this country is dealing with right now during an affordability crisis. And people are also very supportive of the teachers in their fight for public education. But with this legislation, this has become about all of us. Because if we have governments that can simply press the notwithstanding clause button, if they can make our rights optional, then if rights are optional, then they're not rights. And without rights, we don't have a democracy. So this is not just about the teachers. It's about worker rights. It's about worker bargaining power. And indeed, it's about democracy. So everyone should be paying attention to what's happening here. This is we're at a critical juncture, not just in terms of labor relations. This is about our democracy. I mean, we look south of the border and we see Donald Trump basically tearing up the American Constitution. And we've got lots of Americans saying he's trying to behave like a king, not a president. Well, with this introduction of this bill, Bill 2, and here in Alberta, we've got a premier who's not behaving like a premier, but rather like a monarch, a queen, who's ignoring our basic democratic rights, and we have no intention of letting her get away with it.
Gil, thank you very much. We will check in with you tomorrow for the union's official response.
Okay, thanks very much, Markham. Take care.